Hi, everyone. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the following podcast belong solely to the host and its contributors. They are not necessarily the views of our employers, organizations, committees, or other group or individual.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brewing with Bim. I'm Joe Whitney, and with me is Dave Campbell. What's up, Dave?
Hey, not much, Joe. Welcome back to another episode of Brewing with Bim.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we get into it today, we got to introduce our guest, who has been a long time coming. He's kind of the guy that got me on the bandwagon to doing the podcast in the first place. Eric DeLeon. What's up, Eric?
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So for those that don't know, Eric, you're like the CAD manager, right? In quotations. You've got this awesome podcast, CAD Manager Confessions, which is kind of what lit a fire underneath our booties to get this thing going. So man, pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yes, I am a CAD manager. But yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey doing this whole podcast thing, and so it's kind of, to be honest. So I'm going to turn it back to you, in that it was that one evening in November of 2019. You sent me a text going, "Hey, so what are you doing for podcasting, or have you started your podcast?" And I'm like, "Oh man, no, I haven't." So literally, like the next 2 days, I had to record one and get it up there before you did, because you're like, "We're launching this week," and I'm like, "There's no way the guy that's coming to me, yeah, he's gonna beat me." So I had to get mine. I mean, since then you guys have more episodes than me, but at least I got that first one before you guys could launch yours.
Hey man,
That's
quality over quantity. I mean, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with it or anything. You just had like this, declaration that I'm going to be starting a podcast soon, and stay tuned.
Yep.
And I don't know how long it'd been since I saw that, but I was like, all right, man, what are you doing?
6 months. Yeah, it was spring of 2019. Again, I was one of those trying to manifest it, right? Because obviously all of these, we all sit on all these ideas, right? Whether or not we, want to start a diet, or we want to, go do a new kind of workout class, or want to just start a book, or want to start that course. And so this is one of those things where, there can be a lot to it. And so I figured I'd manifest it, because it was in it's been on my bucket list for years, right? Even during the first wave of podcasting, 10 years ago. And so, yeah, so I'm going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to manifest it, put it out there so people keep me accountable, and then nothing for 6 months. And then finally you bugged me, just kind of, you kind of just poked me saying, "Hey, so what are you using for your podcast?" Like, I haven't done it yet, so I better do it.
Oh man, I didn't mean to poke you, but
no, I appreciate
it.
I'm glad you did.
Good poke.
And the rest is history.
You've been the guy that's kind of like manifested quite a bit, though. Like you're always seemed, I don't know if you want to call it a side hustle or a side hobby or whatever, but you're always doing something, like something. So you and I met, for our listeners, you and I met, I don't know, must have been like 4 or 5 years ago at those pub crawls we used to do.
Yep.
And your previous company, and you came up and we had some, some good conversations, but you had told me about some like online trainings and all this other stuff that you had done. And you just always seem to be active outside of work, but still pertaining to work. And it was like this really nice balance of, yeah, I'm working, but this part of it's for me. And I really like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, one of them, yeah, so I've done, how do you want to say it? I was mentored early on in my career of like, if you want to, get ideas for what you're doing in your day job or your current market, always look outside, right? Or, and so that's where kind of, I'm always looking for new ideas, doing spin-offs of trying to, how can I use that technology within the AEC industry? And then, kind of then leveraging some of that, for how do I then build a like personal brand or personal authority platform. And, so yeah, so I've done 3 courses with pluralsight.com. one for InfoWorks and two for MicroStation. Just basically, they reached out to me. I'm just taking my day job knowledge and trying to share it with the world. And when you get, for me, like when I get into that kind of mode, I'm able to use my day job skills in a way that my day job may not maybe let me use my skills. And with that, I get to learn some, you use the creative side of stuff of what I do. So that way, and gets the juices going in a way that just, I like to share, like you said, we talk, I like to share the things that I'm learning because maybe it'll spark something in somebody else.
I think I can definitely relate to that, man. Yeah. So you mentioned you had some good mentors early on. You had worked for a lot of, massive companies, and, we chatted about this in the past. Tell me a little bit more about how you, well, actually, hold on. We gotta backtrack for a second. Dave, I know you are at Pelican Brewery right now. What are you drinking, Dave?
Dude, actually, today I'm drinking a Hazy Rock Juicy IPA. It's a New England hazy IPA with a nice, 6.2% ABV.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And Eric, you are not a beer person. You're tequila, right?
I'm a margarita guy. Yep.
Margarita guy. Are you drinking anything right now, or is he
just H2O? I just got off of work, so.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, gotta hydrate before you dehydrate.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, with the air quality up there, man, I don't know if I'd want to be chugging back a few anyways.
That's crazy.
I am sipping on some Old Overholt Rye and some Diet Pepsi because I'm classy, and to make it even more classy, drinking it out of a Ninja Turtles coffee mug. So adulting.
Awesome.
At its finest, right there.
At its finest.
I'm pretty excited, actually. I was walking through the liquor store trying to pick up my bottle, just kind of seeing what sticks out to me. I finished off my Don. Actually, I had a bottle of Don Julio Reposado, and it was really good tequila. And I'm walking through, and I'm like, I'm kind of moving on past tequila. Like I want to, expand my horizons here a little bit. And I happen to see a bottle of Jameson coffee whiskey. And I'm like, cool. I think I'm gonna try that. It sounds really, really good. I'm gonna have to let you guys know how that one goes.
Uh-oh. So now we know if you don't get nothing done during the day.
Yeah. Right. And
David's a little bit more chill today than usual.
Right.
Fortunately for me, I'm 3 hours ahead of you guys, so I don't have to do anything. I got a few painting projects, but you guys, it's early. You guys still have to be somewhat productive, at least social amongst friends. I'm chilling out in my basement, just by myself, soloing. The family's gone to get haircuts. I'm just hanging out. I love it, man. Just drinking my Ninja Turtle whiskey. All right, man. So that said, got to get back to it. You kind of had this, awesome tenured career, rising through the ranks, but always pushing technology and new workflows wherever you go.
Yep.
Last firm you were with, you and I chatted about some pretty amazing workflows. You're like, oh, we're never going to implement these, but I keep pushing them, and they're cool things that I get to talk about.
Yeah.
Primarily InfoWorks and all those fun things. But that said, how did you come up through this? Like, tell us how you got to where you are today.
All right. Well, I'll keep it brief, but so I started out, got an associate's in CAD technology. From there, early on in my career, I was an industrial designer for a semiconductor company in Tigard, Oregon. We did a lot of stuff for clean rooms, and so back then I was using Inventor, actually a mechanical desktop. And then, the cool part was at that point, mechanical desktop was pre-Inventor. And so we were actually, since we were a heavy use of mechanical desktop in the region, Autodesk actually, they were coming out with Inventor at that time. So I was actually a part of a small alpha group for Inventor, which was pretty cool. And so, so I got to be trained on, Inventor 1.
That's pretty awesome, man. Like, so Autodesk has a very rich history of an inventor inside of the Pacific Northwest, especially that Oregon office right there was Lake Oswego.
Yeah.
And then you guys being a Tiger, you're what, 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a hub of semiconductor companies in the Tiger area, all because of the local big name. But that's awesome. That's like you were, as you say, the alpha. A lot of us are just betas, man. But you're top dog.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be a part of that. And it's pretty cool. What was cool too was that we had like the email to one of the main developer guys or that team, and so there's a couple of nuances I remember with how the button clicks were, the left and button click, and they actually had it. Somebody's trying to be too what do you want to say it? Trying to be too I can't even find that right word. Too smart for themselves, I guess, because they reversed the way how Autodesk, when you're doing Autodesk products, the left and right click button configuration, and the guy thought, oh, we'll just swap it. Yeah, well, that didn't go well because you keep on doing it the other way. But anyway, so there was things like that where they put the button selection back to how it should have been, and then a couple of workflows and stuff that we suggested were implemented in that first official release of Inventor. So that was really cool to see.
Man, yeah, that's not your traditional civil path, though. That's pretty awesome.
No, yeah. So from there, then the company got bought out by a big Japanese company, and so we expanded, and so we went from Tigard. And at this time, I've been living in Salem this whole time, but we went from Tigard to Gresham, to 181st. And then here I am driving from Salem now to Gresham.
It's going to double your commute, nearly.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It doubled it. And luckily I did a 6 to 2:30 shift because we had a manufacturing floor. And so they wanted design to work with the guys and gals who actually put these mini environments for clean rooms together. So it was kind of cool. And even though I had to leave the house at 5, I got there at 6, but I was off by 2:30 and home by 3. Imagine this: you can leave Gresham at 2:30 and be home in Salem by 3:30. That's before the spike of traffic.
Yeah.
Back in the day. But no, I did that commute for like 2 years, and then I was looking for a change, and hopefully close to home. And that's when I took a position with the bridge section with the Oregon Department of Transportation. And that's what got me involved with the AEC market. And so once I went there, I was there for a couple of years. At that time, ODOT came out with it's like a $1.3 billion infrastructure package. And with that came a lot of new consultants. And so so a lot of people, of course, they're poaching from the DOT because we're the ones that were very close to the kind of products that they were creating or doing, the kind of projects. And so, so after 2 years, I left ODOT and worked for H.W. Lochner for 10 years. Lochner was the place that I would like to say was the foundation to the person that I am today. Of course, all the other things are stepping stones. But Lochner, I was able to progress from a structural CAD tech to a CAD manager to leading visualization, a whole new group, leading the LiDAR group there, and then ultimately finding my spot within alternative delivery, being the CAD / production manager for major design, build, pursuits, and projects. But yeah, I mean, those were some great years, and those were the times where I got mentored and was surrounded by some great people. That's where, how do you want to say it? When you get the right group of people together and they all believe in what it is that you're doing, it's truly amazing the kinds of projects that you can do and the type of products that are a byproduct of that, I guess. But yeah, I have some really good memories and some really good relationships and friendships through my times at Lochner that will definitely shape me into the person I am today and help me create some of the workflows, the mindsets, and the how I approach the way I do my work today.
That is awesome, man. That's
That is
like,
awesome.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of that's the I don't know. We kind of all long for an environment like that really coaches you up and lets you try new things, but try them in a certain way. You get mentored and coached
Yeah.
along the way. That's awesome. And
I
I
think
know
that's the
that.
ideal culture.
Yeah. That's a company. That's an awesome company culture. I don't so you left there. Did you go to the firm that I knew you from after
No,
that or?
yeah, no. So what happened? So during that again, I was hustling all over the country, doing design build projects and pursuits. So at that point, um, they actually closed down our Oregon office. However, they kept me on because I was doing a lot of these big projects, and I guess flatter that they don't want to let me go. So out of all the people, I was actually working at my home office, traveling to Bellevue, Washington, traveling to Chicago. Um, and then I guess, here I am, I'm a corporate employee, a part of the alternative delivery group, and I'm based out of Oregon. There's no other employees except myself in Oregon. And so there was a Jesus moment where they're like, if in order, in order to maximize this opportunity, we're going to need you to move to the Midwest. And so that's when I had to look for a different opportunity. I was kind of sad because, end of the day, they were just going to have me go to another state to run another project anyway. And I didn't want to, take my family all the way out to the Midwest when all of our friends and family are here in the West Coast, to do that. And so it was a really tough decision, because I love the people that I work with and the stuff that I was doing there. And so then I left and I went to WH Pacific. I was their director of LiDAR. They were looking for somebody to kind of help revamp and start their group, re-energize their group. And since I had lots of, AEC experience as a CAD manager, technology guy, I had, at that point, I had, I don't know, 10 years of LiDAR experience, and trying to, even though I was a technician or the specialist in LiDAR, I was also marketing and selling it and, doing presentations and trying to, win more work. So I was beyond the technical guy as well. I was also kind of the business part of it. And so, yeah, so I got to do LiDAR there. Unfortunately, that lasted 9 months due to some corporate restructuring. And so I was let go from there. And then that's where I went to OBEC Consulting Engineers, which is where Joey and I our lives intersect. Yeah, I was the CAD manager there for 5 years, managed 10 drafters across 3 offices, doing work for ODOT and all the other public, local agency type of clients.
Well, you've definitely gone back to another bigger firm since then. Not that Obeck was tiny, but just saying, like, the company you're at now, how many drafters do you manage?
Actually, so the company I'm at now is that we're actually they hired me to help revive the traditional CAD group. And so because here where I'm at OTAC, we do the hybrid model to where a lot of the plans production is being done by EITs, designers, engineers. And so right now I only manage two CAD designers, but we're trying to grow it to be very similar to traditional CAD groups, right? Where EIT, designer, engineer do the engineering designing, and then they hand over, the design content / line work, so that way we can produce the plans.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that actually about OTAC either. So real quick though, you've done LiDAR for 10 years. Is it all terrestrial scanning? Is there drones involved? Like, what is your
No, it was terrestrial.
unique?
Yeah, terrestrial. It was all, tripod based, and we had a mobile scanner when I was at W&H. And so, yeah, I mean, when I left that position, I think drones just it wasn't ready yet. Soon after, right?
Yeah.
The drones
Yep.
have taken over. So that would have been what, like 2015-ish, right? When a lot of that 14, 15, when it starts getting more mainstream. Of course, other people did it because I've been following other LiDAR service providers that did it. And so, but for us now, I mean, I've been a champion of it, of course, because it's a newer technology, keeping an eye out on how can we do our jobs better, more efficient? How can we get more data into our teams? And so, but no, wasn't able to do it with. That'd have been awesome if I was able to do the LiDAR with the drones.
Well, as
That would
you
be
got,
cool.
yeah, I mean, we're big proponents of drones and LiDAR as well. We've got a series coming up with some scan gurus and all that stuff, mostly focused on construction side of the vertical side
Yeah.
of things. With that said, you're the InfoWorks, like you've been pushing this for the marketing aspect and all that sort of stuff. I imagine you're incorporating the LiDAR tools, say taken from Recast into InfoWorks, doing feature extraction or what have you. Are you doing any of that yet?
No, not yet. I mean, we looked at, again, where how you want to say it? It's tough enough to have somebody try to want to use InfoWorks, right? Actually, I just had a conversation with Rick Ellis before this. Yeah, we kind of got it because he's going to be on he's going to be on my podcast here coming up, and we actually got on this topic of how it's tough enough to use some of these technologies that some firms don't even quite understand how to use, let alone use LiDAR. Right? I mean, I like to say that we're sophisticated, but sometimes I think because, Rick and I it was a really good conversation just to highlight when people aren't shown how to leverage it, it may not come to mind, like, how am I going to use InfoWorks, right? I mean, of course, to some who've been doing visualization and other things, that makes sense. But if you're not in that kind of realm, now it's just another thing to have to learn to hopefully get to myself to Civil 3D, right? I don't know. It just seems like with some of these new technologies that and I've seen it. I've had a hard time trying to get managers to buy off on, to use it, because the first thing they're saying is, who's going to pay for it, right? How much is it going to cost me? And type of deal. Those are very good, valid questions. And then it comes to, then who's gonna use it, and how are they gonna use it?
Yeah, and those are big concerns. So first off, I mean, Autodesk, everybody knows, has roped it into the AC collection. They started it first by putting it into the design suites.
Yeah.
It still didn't get a lot of traction at first, but then they started removing a lot of the LiDAR functionality, forcing people to recap, and then promoting the drone workflows through 3JR and whoever else through the InfoWorks stuff. To be honest, I don't know the gauge of the market. I just know I work with a lot of people that prefer the linear feature extraction tools rather than paying for some beefed up version of it somewhere else where it's already thrown in. But that said, for those of you guys that don't know, you threw out a name there, Rick Ellis. Rick Ellis is a Pacific Northwest, CAD manager legend. He actually used to work for our employer and who we used to be, I guess. He's been around for a long time. He's a wealth of knowledge, apparently.
Portland Precision.
Yeah, Portland Precision. He was there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, because again, for my podcast, I'm trying to reach out to other CAD manager types. Some of them, like, I haven't been a CAD manager for 10 years. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You still have an awesome story and a unique perspective to bring. But Rick's hustling around, right, trying to train people in Civil 3D and other things.
Yep.
And actually,
he writes his own books. He does a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't wait to have him on. I mean, him and we talked probably for like 90 minutes today. And I'm like, man, we should have just recorded this. It was so much gold there, dude. Much gold.
Yeah. I'm going to recommend two names for you I'll give you three names. Three names that you should definitely reach out to. I don't know if you have any relationship with them, but I'd be happy to make an introduction if you want to have that. One is Rob Gadbaugh. Rob Gadbaugh he's the man. He like started Civil 3D in New Zealand and Australia. He was the guy down there, and he developed Kobe Labs tools, all those stuff. He does a lot of development for a lot of different people. He wrote the original Civil 3D template. He had a hand in that.
Okay.
He's near you. He's up in Camas, Washington. Rob Sinclair, CEC. If you don't know, civil environmental consultants are massive. They're everywhere. Rob Sinclair is the corporate CAD manager. He is like, he's up there. He's a man. And then another gentleman, maybe not so much on the CAD side, but on the BIM side, Stephen Rushmore. He was at Michael Baker and he's now at Larson. Like, these are very prominent CAD guys. I'd be happy to make some introductions at some point.
Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome.
Of course.
I'm just trying to force you into doing more episodes. That's all.
You don't got to force. You don't got to force. I know I got to be consistent. But, no, dude. I mean, I'm loving this because again, it's just it's just to hear the stories, to know that we're all in the same. We're walking all in the same shoes, right? We're all on the same journey. However, the nuances to our journeys is just so incredible. Because, even though CAD may be the foundation to what we do, because the way the cultures of the companies are, our own personal drives and the things that interest us and the firms that we work at, the different industries and markets, it's interesting stories. So I'm having a really great time talking to all my fellow CAD managers.
Yeah, awesome, that path that it takes you down, I find that's the coolest thing, right? It's experience, the experience, like literally just of life in general as it takes you down your path, whether it's, in our case, going through BIM, starting out and, maybe something like design and going into construction and seeing all the different paths that are available to you and just who you connect with, how you connect with people, what workflows you learn. It's an awesome, awesome ride.
Well, that, and then also the culture, you guys both hit on this, like the culture of who you guys were back then, like has shaped who you are now. You mentioned this earlier, how H.W. Lochner's kind of shaped who you are as a person. But imagine like how been brought up in these, like you've reacted to certain things, or maybe somebody slapped your hand where they shouldn't have, or maybe something like, tweaked your mind to doing a certain thing a certain way. That shapes you all throughout. Like you're always going to look back and have that that muscle memory, if you will, and it's going to kind of make you do different things. That said, being a CAD manager today, I can't even imagine. Like so this is one of the main reasons why we wanted to get together, Eric. Aside from kind of the look, man, you were kind of the driving force behind us getting a podcast, educating me on platforms and everything, but more than anything, really right now, what's going on, I really want to chat with you about it. I want to know how COVID is affecting CAD managers, how it's affecting kind of the scope of things, the work, what kind of, strategies are having to be, in place. I have these conversations almost daily, but they're never the same. So I'm interested in hearing what's going on.
I'm interested in a couple things myself. I'd like to add to the list. Since we're interviewing, we're deep diving. yeah, right. We're nailing them down here. So a couple things I'd like to talk about are, how are you connecting BIM? Like, how do you see that process now? Like, what things are you guys, or how are you the virtual design, like the bridge design workflow, going through Inventor, maybe touching in Revit, Inventor, Civil 3D? I know you kind of hit a couple of my buzzwords there earlier with Inventor, Civil 3D, and then InfraWorks, and I'm like, oh man, here we go. So have you had any opportunities to get into that, and again, how do you see, I guess, CAD moving forward and this relationship with BIM, I guess, growing?
That's definitely a better place to start. Start there, man. Start with the whole sim.
Let me go back with the COVID thing, and then I'll get to the sim part, because I think that's that's definitely, like you say, the rabbit holes that we can go down. So obviously COVID, I mean, for all of us, right, it's been a challenge because, one day you're working next to people and the next day you're not. And for some people, that's a challenge. For others, for others, we can kind of roll with the punches as they come. But as a CAD manager, the one, I guess, for me is just the not being able to see my staff in person. I like to say I'm a people person. I've been trained to be aware of body language. And
you definitely are a people person.
And thank you. And tone, kind of, body language and tones of voices. And, I'm unable to do that to where I can pivot conversations or pivot things so that way I can making sure that my people are okay. Right. And so, we talk daily. We have a big meeting every Monday afternoon. But at the same time, though, that's probably been the challenging part. I think the rest of it, ends up working itself out, right? We all learned how to use Teams. One of the big things that I think I like about, to be honest, COVID, it forced me and you guys are gonna like this, forced me to use Bluebeam more for my reviews.
I'm laughing on mute, but that was awesome, man. Yeah.
And so, that allowed me to do that. I'm better at it and faster now. Before, I would be half in, half out. Like, oh, if it's a big plan set, of course I'm going to print it out because I want to feel the paper and be able to flip back and forth. But now I'm way faster at electronic reviews. So I'm glad that, if there's silver linings to all this, that it kind of forced us to kind of move into that next realm of technology. But in overall, I mean, what I really like that this has done is that at least it's helped change the narrative of how we get work done. I don't need to be next to somebody to have trust. I'm not saying I don't have trust, but for others, right, that have to see you in your desk, in your seat at your desk to be able to know if you're getting something done, right? And this has kind of changed that narrative. I think it's been long overdue. And luckily for us, when we went into the stay-at-home orders or shelter in place, we already had Teams. It was just a matter of getting people to use it. And so, for us as a company, it was pretty cool that, I like to say it was like a week or two, to be honest. And then after that, a majority of people were using Teams. We're all VPNing in and, going through all that. So, but, so the other part of the challenges with COVID is accountability and being able to follow up with folks. It's not as easy when you need to do a correction because somebody's not doing, for us, like I told you before, the culture is I still have EITs, designers, and engineers doing some drafting. And so it's not as easy as to go to their desk with the plans and say, hey, I noticed, this is kind of not our standard, let's work together to, making sure it is. And so that's what makes it kind of the challenging, is like the actual follow up of, when you got to do those kind of things.
Gotcha. Kind of more of the things that require a softer touch, more of an over the shoulder type reaction. I get that. I do like what you positioned it very well in your statement, but in my mind, I think of it as COVID forced employees to be computer literate. I think that's the bottom line.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the challenge, and again, I know not everybody's the same, but I know for us, just like you said, I think there's some, computer, I'm trying to be.
You're so PC. Come on, man.
Just some people struggle with the technology. Some people struggle with the technology.
There you go.
For whatever reason, right?
David, I think you're cutting in and out, bud.
Yeah. Anyways.
More for that manager relationship.
Say that again. Anyway, it's hard to hear him. So
Yeah, it's all right.
anyway, so the technology part, like you said, it forced it, and I think that's great. And hopefully we can continue to, and hopefully this actually, hopefully this is a launching, a springboard, right? Into, how can we leverage more technology where it makes sense to help us continue to improve, to improve how we deliver projects, how we communicate, and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I actually, I had the privilege of speaking with a gentleman who we're going to have on this podcast because he was talking about the psychology of design and these interesting concepts that I just never thought about. But anyways, this gentleman, he had pointed out that, his primary focus is on workplace. I'm not going to call.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call him out. But
I think that played in its own way kind of stuff.
David.
Okay, sorry.
That's awesome.
I love it, man. That's what he gets for going to the coast.
Yeah.
He gets to enjoy the beautiful scenery, great beer. He's got to suffer with bad internet.
Yeah.
That's your 10 Hail Marys, man. So I was chatting with this gentleman, and he was chatting. His focus is on workplace, and so he's kind of been focusing on the 4 pillars of getting back to work and what this means, and he's kind of coming up with these alternative theories. But his whole thing was, pre-COVID, we actually only used our cubicle, our seat, our physical seat, 40, or I think it was 40 to 60%, some number. He had, like, it depends on discipline and all that stuff. He had all this arbitrary information that is above my head. But anyways, what it was it focused on how much people were sitting in their seats, so that the owner, the employer, whoever of the building can kind of tailor the environment around them and all that sort of stuff. So using sensors, they were able to choose when to turn on the AC systems and reduce, conserve energy and all that stuff. But with what's going on now, he's saying with COVID, it's like 20%. And is there going to be a return to normal? If there is a return to normal, so the mentality has shifted. The employer is no longer like, are my employees working? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? 9 to 5? Nobody's thinking that now. Now they're just thinking like, are we getting shit done? We're meeting all this? Am I keeping my guys busy? This is the new conversation, not so much the latter. So his whole thinking shift. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the other part too is kind of like now, there's also the other perspective, right? It's like how much money can we also save now, right? Because we don't need 4 stories anymore. Right. If we're only having a third of the company drop in and out during the week, maybe we only need 2 now. There's some cost savings component there. Like before, though, we would never have that because we needed to have a desk for every single person that was an employee with the company.
Now every person can get a $5,000 laptop instead and get full power, which is awesome. But that said, I mean, does that's kind of a double,
it is
a backhanded compliment in our industry, right? We're AEC specific, so what do you do if you're not building more buildings?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean that's the double-edged sword to all of this because like they said, like every downturn always provides opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm.
One industry or market may suffer, but then it also breathes new opportunities. And do we have to shift as an industry? Maybe, and so, one of the things here I want to talk before I go to the sim discussion here, one of the big things I'm noticing is for me, because I don't have the distractions of water cooler talk anymore. And trust me, I love interacting with people.
That's where this podcast came from, was water cooler talk. My desk was next to the water cooler. I had a couch. David would come by. We'd sit, and he'd be like, "Well, let me pick your brain about this. What do you think about this?" And we just riff for like an hour. I'm sure our employers didn't like it, but this podcast spun out of those conversations. Yeah. We were just like, let's make it happen. So, anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But
can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. There's some background noise, but we got you.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to say, yes, I completely agree, man. And I mean, the water cooler talk for me, it was a little bit of a distraction, but it allowed me to kind of talk through things with like-minded individuals. Like, give me a
Of
forum,
course.
right? A forum kind of space where we can release those ideas, talk about those ideas, and figure out different directions we want to go. Dude, I remember bugging Joey all the time, like, hey, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to that person? What about this person for training? Oh, hey, can we do this? What do you think about that? It was a good release, but I felt also inspiration for our team. But the
You
more that
still
we
do
can
that,
adopt,
man. You call me like
oh,
4
dude,
times a day. Like,
well, exactly. Well, that's actually like the second part of my point here. Like, if we can adopt the technology like Teams and things like that, the more that we can adopt that, I feel like we can still get that back. We can
Yeah.
still have that. It's just adopting that technology to pick up where we might, have left off a little bit, or again, since COVID is causing a little bit of a downturn in terms of work. Hey, let's take this time down to optimize. Like, hey, let's look at our templates. Let's look at how we're doing, what our deliverables are, how we can improve on ourselves. And I think pushing forward, we can utilize that to better ourselves as a whole.
well, that's what we've been pushing as for everything. Is if you're not learning during this whole COVID process, you're wasting your opportunity.
Yep.
Just grow. Just focus on what you need to and grow.
But the flip side to some of the non-water cooler talk, right, is that for myself, I know for my team members, is that we're actually now like grinding 8. I mean, we're working like almost the whole day, right? There's not a whole lot of people coming up or there's not some of those distractions besides trying to help somebody with something. And so I think just because as a culture, right, we get those breaks that maybe we're not doing that as much because we're working at home and we're just grinding away. And so I think for me, I've noticed people just seem a lot more, maybe it's just the fate of society. So it seems that just a lot of people are just tired. Maybe it's just the people I'm around, but just people are just tired. And so, and I think I'm like, maybe we're literally, we're in lockdown, but we're also maybe working more throughout the day without those water cooler talks that you said could help, help spark creativity, right? Conversations and get to know other people better and stuff like that.
I was on mute there for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I agree. I gotta hit the mute button.
All right. Well, then the other thing you guys talked about, I guess we can go down our rabbit hole. So sim, right? And so civil infrastructure modeling. I've been pushing this in the earliest forms since I'll use an old phrase here. I use this today with Rick Ellis at the integrated project delivery days.
Oh, good old IPD, man.
Yeah. If I even told him, do you remember that graphic that Autodesk made that showed the infographic that showed all the different steps of IPD? Anyway, I thought that was a pretty cool graphic. But no, I just think there's and I since I'm a bridge guy, right? A lot of my stuff comes from doing ODOT bridges, being a structural engineering tech in that world. So my sweet spot and my specialty is bridges. And so, but I just don't get it still how, and I don't know, and I know the tools are getting better, and maybe this is why, because the bridges can be so intricate, right? Between footings and substructures and bearings and the superstructure and the rail and the protective fencing and all this kind of stuff. We do this design. We have these nice 3D corridors, nice 3D DTMs that we make, and then there's a big hole where the bridge should be, and we're still doing that in 2D, right? I mean, it's interesting to me that we're still, I know the workflows have gotten different now, right? People are leveraging, which you wouldn't think that you can leverage InfraWorks. That you can leverage Inventor to do your bridge, because that's more of a mechanical design tool, right? But it's just, to me, it just seems like we still have to jump through too many hoops to try to get to that still.
So I'm not calling anybody out, but one of the largest bridge manufacturers, bridge builders in the country is located near where I live now, and that's all I'm saying. And they use primarily AutoCAD LT, like hundreds of seats of AutoCAD LT, no Civil 3D, none of this stuff. Like, I'm just wondering, like, how are you building bridges using this antiquated technology? AutoCAD LT is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. It's got the AutoCAD engine. It does a lot of great stuff if you just want to produce 2D.
Correct.
But that said, you don't get any plugins. There's no 3D. There's no integrations with anything. You are faltering and floundering so much. So if you said you spoofed a little bit and said InfraWorks, and then you said Inventor. But that said, if you use InfraWorks to create the preliminary design,
yep,
and then you use it, then you kick it out to Revit, it uses the Inventor engine. I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but it creates all of those Revit families based off of the Astro tables of that initial preliminary design. Dude, your base is there. You got a lot of tweaking. Don't get me wrong, but tweaking Revit families, as somebody who's played with a lot of Revit families, I can guarantee you is a lot easier than drawing line after line after line after line and then making revision after revision after revision after revision.
Yeah, but I don't see that's the part. And this is where, on my podcast, I was talking with one of the guys about something like this. And we kind of chuckled because, of course, we're like, why doesn't Autodesk do something a little bit different? Obviously, they probably know are doing things in the background, right? They were laughing because we're like, oh, we're stupid because, they're probably laughing at us right now. But it just seems like, Revit
they're definitely laughing at us right now.
But Revit isn't made for bridges. Isn't a bridge designing tool, right? It can be.
It is not.
So it's like, I don't know, man. It's like, I'm trying to find a good analogy, but I think you guys know where I'm getting at. And so it's like, even if you leverage the InfraWorks engine to at least start it to get it into Civil 3D, because Civil 3D used to have that bridge module, right, for bridge design, and then it kind of went away.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah.
Because I still use that. I used it in 2019, 2018, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. So I definitely I see where you're going with it. What I think more of what people are thinking the Revit use in this sense would be is for construction documents. It'd be for documentation, right?
Yeah.
The ease of use with sections, call out,
of course, yeah,
making your details. Now, some of your details might need to come from Inventor or CAD, but being able to connect all that information together in that platform to document, I think that's really where Revit comes in.
All the analysis, the bridge analysis, happens based off of the 2D file, which blows my mind anyways, as we use a 2D file to do structural analysis for a bridge, because that is predominant structural analysis software for bridges. It blows my mind. I can't believe that's the way we do this.
So I'm going to say this. So, and I know this is like the 4-letter word to you guys, but when I use the Bentley software,
oh,
yeah, through the heart.
Kill me.
Sorry guys, I told you guys this. I'm dual platform. So get over it.
We're technology agnostic, man. We are technology agnostic.
Anyway, but what they do though is they have I think it's going to be the open bridge designer. They have a different name of it because they're coming out, but they have this tool called Leap Bridge or Bridge Leap. I forget because I only used it a couple of times, but the times I did use it, it actually seemed like that's so basically what it is you have an alignment and basically you have this section. It's like a section creator, right? It's just a little interface that you use. You plug in what kind of ASHTO girders you're going to use, what's the slope of your deck, what kind of rails, spacing, and then you say, I want to start this bridge section from this station to this station, and it draws it in 3D, right? I mean, that's the kind of that's, because to me, like, oh, this actually makes sense. This is how like I would detail it, right? And therefore it spits out something that I'm telling it to do. Now I know InfraWorks does something similar.
That's very cool. That's a very cool workflow. Yeah.
But we don't get to define the elements like you get to define what you were mentioning, because you were saying that you get to define like the rails and the girders and all that stuff. We don't necessarily get to define a lot of that stuff in InfraWorks, which is kind of a drawback. They want you to do that stuff in Revit. But that said, you hit the nail on the head earlier. Maybe it's not the best tool for some. Maybe it's not But that said, like David and I, we're Autodesk people just because of it's what we've been brought up in. It's what we do.
Yeah, we've experienced. It's how our path has been so far.
Yeah. But our company, like, they've got this whole spin-off of themselves with Bentley. There's this integration. So like we've got to be technology agnostic, even though, and we've just, our nature is we're technology agnostic. Like we don't care as long as there's the right tool to fill the job. That said, man, I just haven't seen it. I'd love to see it. If you want to show it to me, I'd love to see it, man. Like I'd love to know more about how these workflows integrate and all that sort of stuff.
But there's still, oh man, it's just a whole interoperability, right, between them all. I mean, so the more hoops, this is how it was in the day before I did, before InfoWorks came out.
That's true.
Before InfoWorks came out, right? In order for me to do any kind of visualization or animation, right, I had to draw it up in MicroStation or AutoCAD or Civil 3D, take those CAD files, right? I then create a 3D model out of each one. I take it into 3D Studio Max. I would texture it, and then depending on what I need to do, render a visualization still and or render it out in animation, right? And so the birth of InfoWorks, man, just I could do all that. What took me like a whole week, now I can do within a couple hours or a day.
So the marketing side, the pre-con side pre-design side rather, was handled for you in one software.
Correct. But now it's and I know they're trying, but it just seems like, but see, the thing is that once you go from InfoWorks into Civil 3D to take the bridge, right? Let's take the bridge through the process, right? So next we're going to take it into Civil 3D so we can actually design this, right? And then take it into plans, right? So we can do construction documents. I think it's within Civil 3D maybe where you really want to run it through the paces like you would a civil design, right? And have the tools intuitive enough to be able to actually model the bridge accordingly with the actual alignment and the actual surface. So I think those are the challenges. And why do I need to go into Revit for that? I understand.
Well, maybe you don't need to go into Revit for that, but I think that's maybe where the adoption of Dynamo might come into play, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, there was this antiquated workflow, and it's since been discontinued, but there was this tool that you were talking about, the structural bridge designer, the package that was in Revit allowed us to go back and forth between Civil 3D and Revit. So not only could we bring our bridge into Revit from InfoWorks, that's great, and have the corridor, the surfaces inside of Civil 3D. Civil 3D, we do all the grading, but then we do the bridge design in Revit. It just.
I guess Revit structure. I guess that was. Was a tip.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then they discontinued Robot, and then they brought it back. So like the analytics side of it wasn't always there. The robot structural analysis, like
no,
I don't know, man. Sorry, go ahead, David.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying, like, with the changes that they're making as they're bringing more advanced steel, right, and Inventor integrations with Revit, the concrete detailing that I'm seeing, the family, like the workflows, I really enjoy. And then again, of course, being able to document everything, being able to take everything inside of Revit, like it's almost making Revit like an Navisworks type of idea, right? Type of thing where we can kind of accommodate all of that information into one. Yeah. It is the aggregator, right? It is the aggregator of that data to go ahead and document everything. But I do like, man, I really love the fact that we're starting to get more into this integration, especially with InfoWorks, Inventor, Civil 3D, Advanced Steel, and of course, not even just Advanced Steel for steel design, but with concrete portions with steel connections, maybe, embeds, things like that. But being able to dimension to a
3D model,
I want to say to a better, really, to be able to dimension like accordingly to where we need to.
Well, that's what Inventor does, right? Inventor allows, and this is what mechanical. This is why we used it. We used Mechanical Desktop back in the day when I was doing my industrial design. Was I had a 3D model. It completely was how I wanted it, and I used that model to create all my views for my sheets. So as soon as the model updated, all my sheets and all my details updated, and my dimensions, if I use dynamic dimensioning, right? That's what we need. Obviously, I think we all know that. I think Revit gives us to it. I just think there just has to be, again, I'm pretty sure somebody's listening to this is laughing at us because they've worked this out. If you're listening to this and you hear this, reach out because we
send some feedback.
Because we need this out there because, it's too many hoops to jump through. And I guess you can do it, but I think the more hoops, being an innovator or being one to push new technologies and trying to have the masses adopt it, the more hoops we have to jump through, the less it's going to be accepted. And if the more hoops they have to jump through, the more that they're going to compromise the right workflow, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to get it done, to get it out the door, and they will compromise it if there's too many hoops to jump through.
Yeah, the more hoops, the more friction, and then the more friction, the more chances of good enough, and then get it out.
Exactly.
But that said, so David, I just want to commend you with that advanced steel. I was just about to give in, and I totally didn't even think about advanced steel. That slipped my mind. Advanced steel is, so Inventor was one of the first programs it was actually the first CAD program I ever learned. Somebody told me in GIS I had to learn AutoCAD. I clicked the first AutoCAD Autodesk installation that I had available to me as a student, and it was Inventor. So I'm downloading it and I'm running it through. I'm learning all the, going through the tutorials, doing the online trainings and stuff that came with our instruction, all that stuff. I learned Inventor, feel great. I'm producing stuff. And then I only to find out that I was an idiot, and that's not what's used for GIS. So I was very young. But that said, looking at like Inventor as the solution is great, but you don't get that fabrication level of detail. You do, but you don't.
No.
So you do, but you don't get the documentation that goes with it. And advanced steel's integration. Well, Revit actually just has some new integration with Inventor, which is awesome. But that said, prior to this, advanced steel's integration with Revit has been tremendous. So yes, jumping through hoops sucks, and it really does suck, but it's just about finding the right tool for the right person. So maybe our engineer doesn't need advanced steel, but maybe the detail team does. Maybe I don't know. I'd like to find a better workflow for this, but I am blown away by what InfoWorks can do in this space to at least get us to the preliminary conceptual.
Yes.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's an awesome tool. I mean,
it is. It really is. And I think kind of what you're hinting at there, Joe, is starting to, kind of focus software for workflows or for jobs like positions, and then making sure they have the correct integrations within the software. Like, let's say our designer needs advanced steel, and or whatever it is, but you're making sure these people have something that can, let's say, collaborate or connect maybe within the AEC collection or outside of Autodesk, but just even, again, making sure that the add-in itself or the integration is a seamless process, right? Because that's really what we want.
So we're trying to tie SIM and BIM mindsets, right? We're talking about civil information modeling, but what David and I preach commonly is about BIM. But the idea here is, I said idea with an R, which you can tell means I've had too much alcohol. Sorry.
What seems to be the officer problem?
Well, the idea.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, man. Anyways, but really, what we're getting at is the long-term effects of people adopting technology as we get closer and closer and tighter with the way our software interacts with the optimal output. So right now we produce drawings to get to 30%, 60%, 90%, 100%, whatever. That's our end goal. We don't, and then from there we get the contractors to come in to produce. And then, again, I'm speaking from a BIM workflow. The contractors come in and produce to fabrication level of detail. But what about getting there on the sim side, the same situation, but maybe it's not a tool that's currently available. Maybe there's a tool that comes out, but allows us to kind of tweak and play with that. So it integrates this whole workflow so that we get to fabrication's level of detail sooner. So we're talking about advanced steel, Bentley products, and then we've got 6 different workflows to get through conceptual and preliminary design, even regular design, and then the analysis still has yet to happen. But what's that handover look like in the future? I mean, we're talking about sim and BIM. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think that there's going to be a technology that kind of has to merge this too, whether it's Bentley, Autodesk, or some unknown player.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's where the future, kind of going back to one of David's questions, right, was what's the future of CAD, right? It's going to be beyond just detailing. I mean, detailing stuff in 2D details to make plans, right? We're gonna have to be working. CAD groups are gonna have to elevate their technical skills and be aligned in some regards with getting direction from like an engineer or a designer, right? And then being able to then help create those 3D models, right? That will be, because hopefully the tools will get there. So it's we can do something very similar like we do with Revit, right? And so that way, like you said, we want to get to a 3D, I guess the phrase is digital twin, right? We want to get to the ultimate digital twin that can then be handed over for the owner, right? Being able then to be able to have these assets that we can then leverage for the future as whatever improvements we're going to make, whatever expansions we're going to do, that we all have, it's all there together. I mean, all right, ultimately.
Dude, I agree. I mean, honestly, it's what we want. That path we can all move forward together. I mean, finding these workflows or integrations, finding how we can, optimize what we have to move forward. And of course, I do think that CAD isn't going anywhere. It isn't. I think it's something we're going to take forward because it's used in so many different industries. It really is. And being able to tie all of our industries together, this is where I see us heading into the future. Right now we have a lot of different types of software for design, manufacturing, media, what have you. Even in the construction industry itself, there are so many different types of softwares for design, for structural design, for mechanical, what have you. Moving forward, dude, I'd like to see somehow we all kind of just, I don't know, find those integrations that can really, provide seamless information, data transfer and data management, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, managing that data between the two, knowing what we need, setting those standards in terms of if you're gonna send me this CAD file, I want it to have this, this, and this in it, so I can optimize this when I'm moving forward, whether it is in Revit or it's in InfraWorks, whatever it is, or Bentley, whatever. Some new software could come out and annihilate everything else. We don't know, but I think that just moving forward, again, optimizing our relationships, right? That's really what it's all about in those integrations.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, that's one of the things I tell people. I said, if that's one of I think the beauties of CAD is that it's one of the technologies or skill sets that crosses multiple disciplines, right? And that could be many forms, whether or not you're designing and or drafting. End of the day, right now we have to create construction documents for somebody to build something. That's where being a professional draftsperson, leveraging CAD for that is a skill set we're still going to need for many years. We're a long ways of doing things where a model, where they're going to be able to build things from a model. And so, that's where I'm excited because again, the opportunity will be there for, in the near and even distant future. But what will evolve was how we make those. I really truly believe we'll get more to like an inventor type, where we're all designing from a true 3D model in all of our plans, like you said, like Revit too, right? A 3D model and all your views, your sections, your details, your layouts, your elevations are all going to be based off of a 3D model. I think ultimately that's where we want to go. That's where some programs are already there. I just think from a sim standpoint, we still have a lot of ways to go in regards to, especially like a bridge, the walls around a bridge and all the things that are kind of structural components.
Definitely agree. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the bridge itself, into analysis, the forces of the bridge, not just vehicles going over it, but the actual forces of the environment it's going to be in.
Yeah.
There's so many different things. And then, of course, the design itself. I mean,
Yeah.
the design is insane with those things, running rebar, running caps, just
Yeah.
to make sure that they are secure. And again, yeah, dude, connecting that data. There's so much, again, I look forward to moving into the future and seeing where this all goes.
Yep. Yeah, and luckily we have, the industry giants between Autodesk and Bentley. They're out there, I like to say they're innovating daily, because obviously they're trying to capture the market respectfully, but at the same time, it does give us the tools that we need to help advance how we create these plan sets, and how can we continue to give, first class deliverables, first class products to the client, right? And at the end of the day.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. It's competition. For me, I'm a car guy. And when I see even this type of competition, it excites me. It really does. Like when I see Dodge and Ford and Chevy starting to produce higher horsepower cars, and they're trying to do less with more. They're trying to put out these higher cars and these faster cars. And you see the same with software, man. And it's exciting. It's seeing, these connections being made that typically before weren't. And then there's things like the of course, not just integrations with other softwares, but new softwares that they're adding, or they're acquiring different companies, they're acquiring different things to be more competitive in these spaces. I think it's awesome. Yeah, keep it going, keep being competitive, and let these other companies grow to breed this competition and make it better for the users, because that's what it's all about.
So stupid mute button on the back of my headset. I have been talking and talking. I'm like, why are they ignoring me? But anyways, so you mentioned something earlier with CAD not going away. AutoCAD is still the most sold Autodesk product. I don't know if you guys know that. But
that is crazy.
AutoCAD is still the most sold Autodesk
I guess product. That makes sense. It's universal.
By a large margin. By an insane margin. I wish I had the slide up to show you guys the metric, but it's pretty insane. That said, the other part of this is we were talking about Inventor, which only makes sense. Inventor is a manufacturing tool. As we kind of narrow this gap that has been happening for quite a while, construction, not just not talking civil space, but construction as a whole is kind of merging, and I'm sure you were at the Autodesk University where they, happened to point this out, that everybody was like, oh yeah, we already know that. But anyways, that said, like where construction is merging with manufacturing, because we're getting to this point of prefabrication and more detailed deliverables, and the design software and 3D and all this stuff is playing together in such a way that we are kind of like just trying to figure out where to shave costs and how to give ourselves the leg up. And I say us, design firms, whoever it is, just merging the two. So Inventor kind of just makes sense. So as we get more parametric tools, more dynamic tools like Inventor, like Revit, it just makes sense that they're going to come full circle. And I don't know if you've had a chance to play with Dynamo, but I am very excited about what Dynamo allows us to do.
Yeah, no, I haven't had a chance. I mean, it's on my list. But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, what we're, as end users, right? We're trying to look at is, how can we continue to be efficient? How can we continue to elevate ourselves, our technology? So it's exciting time.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, I know we're coming up on the hour, and we promised to get you off in time. But that said, you provided us kind of a unique insight into what the CAD managers are facing today, the future of SIM. There's been kind of a weird lull that's been happening with construction and design, and I feel that it's picking back up. And I feel like, you mentioned earlier that you feel like you're busier, more hours of the day now. I feel like we're just getting back to this point where construction's coming, or design at least, is coming full circle. and we're putting more into our designs. Is there anything that you could tell our listeners that you think that our listeners would want to hear about this kind of, future of where design's going? Not only where design's going, but where COVID's kind of pushing us.
I think it's still pushing us to, continue to collaborate, of course, right? We do that every day, but it's a little bit different because we're remote. And so I know this is going to sound cliche, but you're just going to have to stay on top of your communication. As a design team, as a project team, because it's very easy to now. It truly is to just kind of fade away and not say anything or do things kind of on your own, but just continue to communicate with everybody. So that way, just being transparent to another level. Again, as a manager, I'm looking for that for my team, right? Are they engaging with their teams that they're working on? Are they continuing to following standards? Are they continuing to do our protocol? Even though we're on VPN and it's very easy to copy a file to your laptop hard drive and work on it from home, do the right thing and still work on it on the network, right? The other thing is, if you haven't, I know, and again, this it's going to be a plug for you guys. If you guys aren't leveraging, just bite the bullet and leverage your electronic documentation review software. For me, we use Bluebeam. I've been doing more and more of my CAD checks that way. We're going to be using obviously Bluebeam Studio more to do whole project team project reviews. And so, if it's something that, if you're listening and you and your team are just having to struggle with checking and doing things, obviously at home, we don't have big scanners for 11 by 17s. If you do, awesome. But if you don't, just get comfortable with the tools. It won't take long. The more you do it, the more efficient you'll get at it. But, one parting word, I guess, with this is that, we're all dealing with different things at home, the way we interact with each other. Just have a little bit of patience and a little bit of compassion with each other, whoever you're working with, because, we don't know what they're struggling with at home with kids and working remote, or their spouses or whoever they're working for is working from home as well. And you're around each other a lot. So, just extra, a little bit of extra love and a little bit more extra patience, I think will go a long ways.
All right, man.
I agree, especially in these times, man. I really do. That's a great message. That's perfect to end on.
Heartfelt from the CAD manager himself.
Thank you.
Love it. Well, tell everybody how they can find you, man, and what you got coming next.
Yeah, so probably you could find me on LinkedIn, Eric DeLeon, DeLeon. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter with the handle Mr. Mister _ DeLeon, DeLeon. And of course, you can search for the CAD Manager Confessions podcast on all the major podcast platforms. What I'm doing next is, trying to, I've started this, what I'm calling it, a CAD Manager Masterclass. So if you're a CAD manager, even a BIM manager maybe, I'd love to talk to you. I'm continuing this series where I interview and talk with other fellow CAD managers to hear their stories. And so that way us as a community can learn. It's amazing. I just got done with series 1. I already have enough interviews lined up for series 2 and 3, and just going to continue this, and hopefully it could provide value to the CAD community of, what it takes to be a CAD manager, the stories of the challenges, the successes, and the, all the things that a CAD manager does every day.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Eric. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Brewing with BIM.
Woo! All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, Eric.
Thank you.